Hey, I think we're live. Welcome to this week's edition of SIPPIO Live. It's just a quick little drive-by, just popping in, sharing some of what we've seen over the past week, some of what we've shared over the past week. Just giving you kind of a quick check-in on what you need to know from last week and what's coming ahead. So this past week, there was a couple of really interesting articles that I want to dive into to talk with partners about. The first one was the Metrigy annual report. It was actually a really interesting report. Some of the findings were expected, you know, like the water is wet, right? Last year, the unified communications as a service market grew by 6% year over year, is what they found. Microsoft dominates the market with 22% share. Water is wet. But some of the, if you dig deeper in, you start to kind of see some really interesting insights. So, from a UCaaS market share perspective, it was Microsoft followed by Cisco, which kind of shocked me a little bit. And I think they get some double dip credits because of the hybrid stuff. And then Zoom and then Ring Central. Those rounded out the top four. What's interesting is those top four account for over 50% of the UCaaS market. So you can very clearly see some interesting pieces of data coming together and coming into focus. Number one is the validation that voice isn't really a product anymore, it's a feature. When three of the top four market share leaders in these environments are not UCaaS offerings in the traditional sense, but collaboration platforms that have voice as a feature inside of them, you can start to really see where the market is going. And that is collaboration is the new platform. And voice is just a capability that's in that platform. It's not usually a standalone phone system for customers anymore. They're realizing that there's tremendous cost savings to be found by looking at a best of suite approach versus the best of breed stack approach and treating voice as a standalone, whether it's premise or cloud. Speaking of Prem, there was also some water is wet and some really interesting insights as well that I think partners need to be aware of. Let's talk about the water is wet stuff. Prem went down 6% last year. No shock. Was somewhat surprised. Metrigy's forecasting that Prem is going to go down by what was it, just under 9% share, 8.7% over the course of this year in 2026. So the acceleration is happening. I think market conditions are really starting to make customers look at what they're spending on telecom. And is this the time to rip the Band-Aid off and migrate to Teams and Zoom? And what I think they're also finding is that the transition to get those cost savings isn't as painful as they probably think it is. You know, these platforms have become very mature over time, and we've got something to talk about there. So, you know, the prem market is shrinking. It's shrinking rapidly, close to 9% this year. But where there was a real insight, and this was kind of like a no duh moment, but it also was an insight because I think a lot of partners ignore this. The 800-pound gorilla in the on-premise space is Cisco. Cisco Unified Communication Manager accounts for, make sure the numbers are right, 45.8% share. So almost 46% market share of the premise-based unified communications market is Cisco. And I think most partners kind of ignore the Cisco part and they start to look at the Avayas, maybe to the Mitels and some of the others that are in that space as kind of their target market. But if you're ignoring the largest competitor in that premise-based world that is migrating and that is shrinking, you're missing the biggest piece of pie. So, you know, I think one of the things we've got to all deal with from a partner perspective, for, you know, if you want to have a discussion with your customers about, you know, telecom in general, is you got to have just an understanding it is not a priority for your customers. You know, in survey after survey from Gartner and others, IT priorities, telecom is at the bottom of the stack. This is what the legacy guys are depending on. You know, they'll put fear of God into, you know, your customer to say, hey, you can't touch this thing because it's like a fragile spider web, and if you do one thing, it's going to break everything in your business. And then number two, you know what? It just runs. The stuff just works. So, don't touch it. In the meantime, it's like a bad relationship where, you're just continuing to pay for all the dinners and pay for all the bills while this, deadbeat is living off of you. It's the same kind of thing. Big dial tone. These guys just make a living off the fact that telecom is not a priority. And, there's this fear that if you touch it, you're going to break it. So the status quo just persists. They live on the status quo. So you have to come at this with the understanding that for your customers, the very first thing you need to do is show them the need to prioritize telecom. And that's going to be the cost savings. Hey, you can save a large sum of money by migrating from legacy to, pick your platform, Teams, Zoom, whichever. Use some of the research that's out there. Forrester did a great report on the total economic impact of Teams Phone. Customers can lower their total cost of ownership by up to 140% by migrating from the dinosaurs to Teams Phone. The ROI is measured in months and not years, so usually like a 6-month payback on any ROI spend. So it's a very aggressive benefit to the end customer to prioritize looking at telecom. But then secondarily, you need to comfort the customer, because that whole perception of this thing's really complicated, and if I even look at it the wrong way, that PBX is going to break my world. In today's parlance, these platforms have really achieved a lot of feature parity. So to help you with this, we have created blueprints for customers that are coming from legacy infrastructure moving to Teams Phone, and we're going to be continuing to expand this library. So right now, we've published 2 blueprints, one for customers moving from IP Office and moving to Teams Phone. We just published last week the second in the series, moving from Avaya Aura or Avaya Aura Communication Manager to Teams Phone, and mapping out how features line up between the two platforms, migration strategies, how customers have done it in the past. But let's circle this back to that finding in the Metrigy report that Cisco dominates the prem-based space. So the next blueprint that we're building, it'll probably publish here in the next, say week to 2 weeks, is a blueprint for migrating from Cisco CUCM to Microsoft Teams Phone to help customers. So we'll arm you with the tools that'll help you have the discussion about reprioritizing telecom, those cost savings. Give the customer the comfort. This is where you are. This is what it looks like in the new environment. And these are some of the benefits you get by moving to this new environment. So things like, leveraging AI and Copilot, or deploying digital communications with shared line appearances and ensuring compliance and a host of other things to help that customer on that journey. So to arm you as a partner with the tools that you need to prioritize, to comfort, and then to enhance your customers' communication stack, even when they're not necessarily thinking of it as a top priority. It gives you the tools to help you get there. So, we've got the Cisco CUCM blueprint printing. We've got a great customer reference with Roseman University. For those of you who aren't familiar, Roseman upgraded their legacy Cisco Unified Communications Manager. They migrated to Teams Phone. It's a really interesting use case. As a part of that migration, there was, as part of the case study, there was some of the strategy that IT leader Jeremy Brenton used in migrating the campus department by department, finding influencers within the departments and getting them on board early and creating a feedback cycle. But the most important stat, or most impressive stat, was desk phones. They had a large number of faculty that felt they needed a desk phone. But even though they used the desk phone in speaker mode with their office doors closed. So they proposed a program, try using a soft phone for, I think it was 60 or 90 days. And at the end of that trial period, if you still need your desk phone back, we'll flash, your Cisco endpoint with SIP and we'll give it back to you. And only 50 of 700 IP phones went back out into the field as a result of that program. So check that use case out. Roseman University, it's a great case study. We'll have that Cisco Unified Communication Manager blueprint for you to add to the Avaya and to the IP Office and to the Communication Manager blueprints to really arm you with the tools to help your customers realize the benefits of migrating to a legacy communications, migrating away from, sorry, we're live, a legacy communication system to Teams Phone. And we'll eventually build these for Zoom Phone and Cisco WebEx as well. And one last plug on the Metrigy report. If you haven't checked it out, we'll put a link in the description down below so you can check it out. Definitely give it a read. Get our folks at Metrigy, really brilliant folks. But we also have our own in-house expert. So we have quarterly market briefings. We actually had our Q1 market briefing last week with Matt Batterby, my colleague over in the UK. That webinar is available as an on-demand replay. He was joined by CDW in the UK to talk about AI and some of the other market trends that are out there. So if you haven't checked out that webinar, if you didn't attend it live, that's okay. Make sure you catch the on-demand replay. It's available for you to watch. So check that out. We'll put another of the links in the chat there down at sippio.io/events. The other piece of another article that kind of caught my eye this week was an article just this morning published by UC Today. So Microsoft has released a architecture improvement that is going to make a dramatic impact for end users on their mobile devices. So iOS or Android, tablets, mobile phones, when you join Teams meetings or when you participate in a Teams phone call, from your mobile device, you're going to notice a severe improvement in call quality. And a lot of that is driven by a reduction in latency through an architecture change. So if you're interested in kind of understanding this, the biggest benefit to this is it's going to be transparent to your end users. They're not going to know, they're not going to see any type of new buttons. It's going to work the way that it always has. You just join a Teams meeting, you make a Teams phone call from your mobile device or your tablet or your iPad, but you're just going to notice it's going to be a lot cleaner of a phone call. And the reason for that is a new architecture deployment where they're shifting the media processing to the edge, to the mobile device, versus having it operate inside of a virtual environment in Azure. The technology that they're using here is called WebRTC Redirector Service. The article does a pretty good job of digging deeper into the technology. So if you want to learn more about that, go visit the UC Today article. I think we'll probably put a link to that down in the description as well. So it was an interesting piece of news that came out that's going to just enhance everybody's mobile experience using the Teams app on your mobile phone, iOS, Android, or your tablet or iPad. So that's where I'm going to put a pin for today. I'm going to close out by just urging you to check out, we've got a webinar with one of our partners, Brilliancy Path, coming up in a couple hours at 2:45 Eastern time. So there's still time for you to register. Go check out sippio.io/events. You can register for that event. It's a great session. You'll learn a lot about Teams Phone, intelligent workplace, and how a partner like Brilliancy Path can help you, get from A to Z without having to deal with any of the hiccups along the way. So definitely check it out. Again, at 2:45 Eastern is when that kicks off, and you can register for it on our website at sippio.io/events. This has been this week's version of SIPPIO Live. Look forward to talking to you again next week with whatever news and information we find over the week. And thanks, everybody. Have a great week.